Greetings, technology enthusiasts. I am Chandrahas and I am delighted to be here with you representing CyberBrainer. Do you not believe that the technology sector is advancing at an unprecedented rate, making this an opportune moment to acquire the skills that will facilitate your progress? With CyberBrainer, we are empowering you to take control of your own future. At CyberBrainer, we do not merely impart your interests. We assert that information is power, yet it is the application of knowledge that distinguishes you. Our courses are meant to equip you with essential skills, whether you are pursuing data science, understanding artificial intelligence, or delving into cybersecurity. Let us commence the session and seize the future today. Thank you.
Which were available. We haven't configured them yet, but then we at least looked at the stages that are available. One thing to remember, basically, a stage performs certain computational function, right? A stage performs, it can filter something, it can import something, it can join something, and on and forth. Now one thing to remember, that adding a stage can change the number of records in the data set. A stage can change the number of rows in a data set. Not just number of rows, it can also change the number of columns in a data set. How does it do that? We'll go ahead and see that in a bit. For now, let's go ahead and talk about the various stages that are available. The first stage is import stage. Which type of data set did we see? An import stage. Or out of tables based datasets and derived datasets. Where did we see import stage yesterday? They are datasets. This is the first stage in every pipeline. This is the first stage in every pipeline of a derived dataset. What does it do? It basically imports data from a source. And what would be that source for a derived dataset? It could be a table or various dataset. Or it could also be other derived dataset. And for a derived dataset, that source is the output of a table or an existing dataset. When I say an existing dataset, it could be an existing base dataset or an existing derived dataset. Can I import or can I delete an import stage? No, usually it will. It is the first stage. I don't think you can delete. You cannot delete or add an import stage, right? When you create a derived dataset, Workday automatically adds it. And if you delete an import stage, basically you're deleting the entire derived dataset, right? You cannot just delete an import stage. That's not possible. A part stage similar to an import stage is automatically added by Workday to a table or base dataset. And it describes or is used to import data into Prism from an external database. It's in a tabular format. The whole idea of a part stage is it is used to import data from an external source. When I say external source, external to Prism, it could be Workday custom report, or it could be a file, or it could be an SFTP. Basically, that's what a table or a base data set does, right? Similar to an import stage, it is automatically added by Workday. Similar to an import stage, we cannot delete or add a part stage on our own. The next phase. The next stage, something we have not looked at yet, is manage fields. Now this stage, let's go ahead and look at it now. Where can we add a manage field stage? Can we add it on a base data set, a derived data set tables? Can we add a field? A base data set? I don't think you can add. Let's go ahead and look at that now. Manage field stage is a type of stage that basically enables you to view field changes. Basically select certain fields and also edit fields. Manage field stage allows you to basically, let's go ahead and see what I mean with that. Let's see we imported. We imported employee details. We imported survey detail. Let's go ahead and open the employee details. This is our employee details field. Now if I go ahead and, oh, this is a table. This is a table. In table, we cannot add and edit transformations. Right. Let's talk about another stage and then we look at manage field stage. Or let me do it now. That should be fine. This is. He created a derived data set as well. Let me open a derived data set. Let me also open a base data set on a derived data set. This is a derived data set that I have opened. If you see, I have the option to edit the transformations on A. It makes sense if I go and rename it. This is derived data set. Oh, I am trying to figure out. How do I change the name of a data set as a through edit transformations? Yes, it is to add the transformations. I want to rename it as PD's employee survey details. I am going to save it and then I will refresh it. Sorry for that. Here I have a base data set, and if you see, I have the option to add a transformation to a base data set. I'm selecting that. I have a derived data set. Once again, I have the option to add a transformation to a derived data set, and this is a table, and I don't have the option to add a transformation to table because in table we cannot do any transformations. If you want to transform any data in a table, we'll have to create a, and we can see that we don't have an option to edit to any transformations. Now I have this base data set now here. If you see, oh sorry, I have this derived data set, and here I can add any of those fields. I can. Now, whenever we created our data set, Workday automatically added certain fields for us, write it automatically. What I want is, I want to remove those fields. I have imported this employee details. I imported this ZF training employee details, this table, into this derived data set when I created it. Right? That's what we did yesterday. Now I want to modify some fields, or I want to add certain transformations into it. This is where I'll add a stage, and let's select the Manage Field stage. I'm selecting the Manage Field stage. Now what does a Manage Field stage do? A Manage Field stage can be added to both base as well as derived data set, and this is where you can select certain fields, edit fields, as well as see what kind of field changes are happening. Here at this point in time, what changes can I do? I don't want these fields that put Workday automatically added to be carried forward in my data set. At this point in time, all these fields are visible. When I say visible, they are all part of the data set. If you see Upaloaded, I don't. I want to remove these fields or hide these fields going forward. I'm basically hiding these fields, right? The second thing I want to do is I probably want to rename some of these fields. I'm renaming this to termination date. I can do any other changes. I can make name changes to these fields. The third thing I can do is if Workday has identified the wrong field type, I can go ahead and change the field type. I can do schema changes within the Manage Field stage. But when I say schema changes, I cannot go ahead and delete any field. I cannot go ahead and add a new field as such. Right? That's what I can do with a schema change here. I can change the field type even for these field types. If you see, I can change the business object. Workday identifies this is an instance field or a multi-instance field. But then I realize that Workday has not identified the right business object for this instance. I can come in here and I can select a different business object for it. Alright. What all changes can I do? First, where can I add a Manage Field stage? It can be added to both base and derived data set. And what changes can be done? You can hide fields, you can change field names, and you can change field types and associated business object. if it is a numeric field. Let me see if there is any numeric field available here. If there is a numeric field, for example age, let's say I select this to be a numeric field, I can come in here and I can also select the precision of that field. By default, it says there would be 19 digits before decimal and there would be 0 digits after decimal. I can say no, there would be X digits after decimal or whatever. For a numeric field, I can also make those changes. I'll leave it as long because I don't want this to have any procession, right? This is simply age of the employee. Then, once I've done with that, I can preview changes. This is available for certain stages wherein I can preview the changes that we are doing. Now, after making changes, none of those fields that I've hidden are available. As we mentioned, a stage can change the number of records in a data set. Here it is changing the number of columns in the data set, and I can add some description and I can say it done. The output of this stage when I click on this stage here. If you see this stage, when I click on any stage for that matter, it shows me the output of that particular stage. When I created this derived data set, we imported data into this derived data set. When I click on this import stage, it shows me that all those fields or all those columns are part of that stage. Right now, this fed into this manage field stage. And when I click here, this is where I did those transformations. Now the output of this manage field stage is I have removed those fields. Makes sense. Basically, on the import stage, you did when the import stage is nothing but your table, or import stage is showing me exactly same data as my table, right? Any stage. Whenever I click on any stage right, it shows me data as of the output of that stage. What did this import stage do? It simply imported all data from the table right. That is the output of that import stage right. This table, if you see, had all of these. How many fields? 20 had 27 fields including all of these. Right? This has 27 fields in total. Manage stage, manage fields. We remove 5 of them, I guess, and when I come to here, it has 22 fields. Oh, right. Whenever we click on any stage, it shows the output of that stage. Right now. Now I can, if I want, I can delete this manage field stage. Right? I can come in here. It gives me the delete option. I can only edit this import stage. I don't have an option to delete it. Delete it. Your import and pass stage cannot be deleted, right? That is your manage field stage. Now at any stage you can add a calculated field. Even here I can add a calculated field. Right? It gives me an option. But then as a best practice, and what I prefer is whenever, usually, if I have to add a calculated field, I do it at a manage field stage, or I do it at a manage field stage, or I add a manage field stage, because that way I know there are 10 stages here. Else, if we add a calculated field anywhere, it usually becomes a bit difficult to understand it. Right when we have a manage field stage, and my personal preferences. I know there is a calc there. If there is a calculated field in that data set, it would be at a manage field stage and I can directly go there right, and it shows me how many. It shows me how many calculated fields are there. How many fields are there? this is visible on any stage, right? But then that's a kind of best practice. Any which will not talk about calculated field just now. We'll just see one calculated field in a bit. That would be required. Alright, that is the manage field stage now. Let's talk about, here we have two base data sets. We have one base data set wherein we imported data for 2022, right? And then we have this table wherein we imported 2020 and 2021 data. Right now. Why did we do that? Because we wanted to explore one stage. Now I want to club all this data together, right? Because 2020 and 2021 survey results are in this table and 2022 survey results are in this base data set. Right? Let me just quickly rename it. I want to rename it to. This is why it's a best practice to add the object, else it becomes confusing. I have this table wherein I have survey results for 20 and 2021, and I have this base data set wherein I have survey results for 2022. Now, both of these objects have exactly same number of columns, right? Because we are basically loading the same data, right? But it is distributed around across two different objects. Now, how do I join them, right? Or how do I club this data together, bring this data together? We already know. If I click on this base data set, I cannot do that because a base data set doesn't give me those options. Right. We'll have to create a new data set, which would be a derived data set. Right. I'm going to my data catalog. I'm creating my derived data set. I'm calling it Zeef training. I want to start with let me refresh this. Now it's updated. I'm creating a. These are the two objects I want to import, right? Employee server details, which is a table, and employee server details, one, which is a base data set. Here I'm basically selecting my starting table, right, which will, or the starting object, which will be used to create my derived data set. Now in this case, I can either select a table or base data set. It doesn't matter because all I'm looking to do is join exactly same data for two different years in two different objects. However, just for the sake of consistency, because this is for 2020 and 21, the table I'll select my primary pipeline as this table, right? As I mentioned, in this case it really doesn't matter. I could have selected, or I can select this base data set as well as my primary pipeline. I'm selecting this table as the source of data for the derived data set I'm creating. I am saying, and one quick question. You are creating data sets, a derived pipeline, right? Sorry, you are creating a data set, but you are creating one more derived data set, right? But you created a pipeline before. I thought you will add no, if you remember, or Workday automatically adds import pipeline. Workday automatically adds the primary pipeline, and within that primary pipeline, Workday automatically adds import stage. Part stage based on the type of data set. Right. When we create a derived data set, let me start again. This is all we do. I would click on Create button. I would click on Derived Data Set because that's what I'm creating, or I'll select Table, or I'll select any one of these options for base data set. Here I want to create a derived data set. I'll select that now derived data set. It doesn't import data from outside Workday. Right. A derived data set. Data set is created using data using either an existing table or base data set or a derived data set. The next task is ask me to select which is that table or base data set or derived data set you want to use to create this new derived data set. I'm selecting this table and I'm saying yes. That means that this is the confusion. You have created data set which is the derived data set by expecting an import, which is fine. Will it automatically create a pipeline? Oh yes, it automatically creates the primary pipeline. It automatically creates that import stage within the primary pipeline. Right, I understand. That sounds fine. Now you are creating one more derived data set with respect to importing the data with respect to the table. Right? That's what you're talking about. Right? I thought we have to, instead of creating a new derived data set, we just need to attach the table to the pipeline. That's what my thought is, but we can do that. But and see, it all depends on how you want to structure it. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. How many sources of data do we have? We have. Let me do it in a different tab. First thing we created from Workday. We created a custom report called employee details, right. We imported this data into a table, right, which is our tubule, right, employee details, right. Tubu, right, and you have created two base data sets for 2020, 21, and one more bytes for my second data source is external, which is basically survey results, right. One of that is loaded into table survey. And then which is basically data for 2020 and 2021. And then I created a base data set, right. What survey, right, which has data for 22. Ultimately now, I would join this survey results with employee details, which will allow me to know which employee did what survey, right. That is my ultimate goal, but before I do that, see, I have survey results spread across two different sources. I want to bring my all survey results together, and for doing that I'm creating a new for this table. I have already created a DDs, right, which is what you're referring to, right. Ultimately, I'll join the survey data in this DDs. What you're saying is right. But before I can do that, I want to bring this entire survey results together. I'm now creating a new DDs which will basically allow me to bring survey results together, and then I'll club this DDs with it. This DDs, instead of making it just simple, I thought let's make it a bit more complex that we can see other use. Makes sense? That makes sense. This is what we are trying to achieve right now. I'm saying save. This creates my primary pipeline for this derived data set. If I click on edit transformation, this has created my primary pipeline, right, which is this table which I imported, and this table which I have imported becomes part of my import stage. Now at this point in time, I can add another stage, a manage field stage, to basically remove all of these unnecessary values. But then I'll not do that right now. Now I have created a derived data set which is basically an import of this table, right? It has details for 2020 and 2021. Now to this, I also want to join details of 2022, which is a BDs, which is a beats. Now what did we say? A derived data set can do. It can have multiple pipelines, right? Each of those pipelines would be coming from different sources. At this point in time, all the objects we have created have only had one pipeline. Let's see how an additional pipeline gets added. Now I want to add a new stage. Now the stage that I want to add is a union stage. I'm selecting union stage. Now this is where it is asking me to second this secondary or select the secondary pipeline to join or to do this union the primary pipeline. Right? A union stage or certain stages involve more than one pipeline. When you select that stage, Workday would automatically ask you to identify which is the secondary pipeline with which you want to do this union. Now, when I select union stage, the secondary pipeline that I select will be combined with the primary pipeline for this derived data set, which we already know is the table. I would come in here and I want to add another pipeline. I'll select this option. Now here it is asking me to add another pipeline. Now this is where those B's and D's becomes helpful. I'm selecting the BDs and saying select. Now when I'm joining two, it is asking me how do I want to join them. Right? I want to join them based on the primary pipeline. And I'll say this is my primary pipeline. It shows me this is my secondary pipeline and this is why is there just one row? Do I have to do it all manually? Which is actually strange because it shouldn't be doing there. Just it is tuning only one output. I'm going to delete this. Give me a second. Let me quickly see. This is stable. These are all numeric. Let me show that. This is my survey results 1. Let's quickly see. Numeric 9 to 0. I'm adding a new manage field stage. This is why it was not joining, right? Here in this table, all these fields are identified as numeric. Right. Whereas in this beta set based data set, they are all identified as integer. In a union, stage would only join those fields which are exactly same. Why did it join employee ID? Because employee ID is text here and it is also text here. Right. I'll change it to numeric. The default is 19 digits before, 0 digits after. I'll leave it as is because that's what we have in this table as well. It's numeric 190 and that is what I'll do for all the other fields as well. And I'll say it done. In my base data set as well, what I've done is I have added a manage field stage. My base data set only has one pipeline. That pipeline has two stages. The output of the final stage of your primary pipeline is the output of the entire data set. When I do a union, it will do a union between this table and the output of this data set, which has only numeric fields, which is basically the output of this stage, which is basically the output of the entire data set. I'm selecting ZF training details. What I'll have to do is I'll have to cancel this. I'll have to delete this pipeline. Currently, I tried adding the pipeline, but then I selected the pipeline. I didn't unit. When I came out, it shows me that this pipeline is still there. And because I selected that pipeline before making changes to my base data set, it still has those old values. I'll click on Change Pipeline. It shows me that this is my primary pipeline and there is also this additional pipeline. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and delete it first. Right? I'll go ahead and save my data set. I'll go back to my primary pipeline. When I click here, it takes me back to my primary pipeline. My base data set is already saved. I'll go ahead and add the union stage. Now it shows me ask me to select another pipeline. I'm selecting base data set select. Now if you see, it is doing that perfect match. What it is saying is this is your primary pipeline with all these fields. This is your additional pipeline with all these fields and the output would be this. It is creating this new union output which is employee ID. If I want, I can rename it now. This employee ID is a union of this employee ID in primary pipeline and this employee ID in your additional pipeline. Similarly, this here is a union of these two values. It shows me that sample rows a preview and here I can see that exact match. But you have 17 fields. Those 5 fields are the additional fields. If I want to validate that when I come here, if you see, this has those 17 fields in this table, which is what I see here. My primary pipeline is my table, right? It has those 17 fields. And because these fields don't exist in my base data set, It is only doing a mapping with the 12 fields within mapping exists. And when I said done, this has created my new derived data set. Now, what is the difference? The difference is my table. If I go to my table, if you see, this is what I was talking about. We see a sample 20k rows in any object. If I go to my table, this table has 9058 rows. If I go to my base data set, how many rows are there in my base data set? That's what I took. 40 something? My combined derived data set has some 400. Can you go to the right? In the down. In the base data set. In the derived. It combined only the 12. This is base data set. This is derived data set. It has combined all those 12 fields. Plus, it has combined data for 2020. It has combined data for 2021. It has 958 pers, which is 1300 for the tree, or some 13 in total. Right. And if you don't mind me, can you show me the lineage as well between these? We'll just look at that. I'm going to save this. I want to see the lineage from here. I can click here and I can go to view lineage. This is my lineage now. It is importing data from table survey details. It is importing data from base data set service details. And then it is creating this derived data set. All these stages are very straightforward in Workday. Right. It's kind of no-brainer. We have union stage. Union stage combines data from similar fields. In different data sets. Or tables or data sets and tables into a single field. Right? A union state. Can only be added to a derived data set. The schema of both pipeline. It only combined. It only combined those fields in the pipeline. One quick question, maybe a dumb one, but the schema has to be matched as well. Between no, not. When it says schema, there can be different number of rows. There can be different number of columns. It will only combine those fields which have the same field type. That's what it does. And that's what we saw, right? One T, right? I thought because it created Workday related. I mean the extra column. That is the reason I asked the question. Alright? If you see, we have two derived data sets. Right. One is this one, which the combined survey result, which is this, and we have also created a derived data set. Or right, I want to join this data together. Employee, I want to see what survey they performed. That's good. Right. For that, we already have. For that, let's combine here. This is my derived data set, which has import of employee detail. We don't need this. I'll remove this. I'll remove this. If I click here, edit transformations. This has employee details in it, right? And we created this derived data set, added a manage field stage, and this has the survey results. I want to bring this data together in the sense, if this is the employee number, if we come here, one survey results, did that employee perform, right? That's what I want to do. This one is fine. Can you go to the other one? Other derived data set, and in the manage field, which field did we add? We didn't add any fields. We remove the UPA fields. We just remove. However, there is a problem. The problem is when I want to see this person, I want to see what was his survey. In what survey did he perform? And what survey did he perform in 20? That's how I want to see this data, right? For each employee, let's say employee number 1 or P, I want to see. This was his survey. For question 1, it was 5. Question 2, it was 6. Once again, for employee 1, for question 1, his survey was 6. It was 5. Employee 1, it was 4. And this is how I want to see the data or currently. The way it is structured is in DDS, we have employee 1 and employee 1, employee 2 and 4, and in DS2 we have these survey results, right? Now for getting this data together, this is where I would need the primary key, right, or key, which will allow me to bring this data together, right? Now there is a problem here. The problem is the employee ID is simply, you want face, right, and here. In both these cases, it is text. If I go to manage field stage, the field type is text, but then the values are different, right? Here we have suffix or prefix, any before it, right? Now I have to remove this prefix. And how do I do that? I'll do a calculated field, right? Just as a best practice, I'll add a manage field stage. I could have simply added calculated field here. It doesn't make any difference. But I would add a manage field stage and I'll say it done. I mean this manage field stage. I'll add a new calculated field. Now all calculated fields are added by Workday to the end. The object, the moment I click on add field, my new field gets added. Right. I would go ahead and rename this field. I'll calling it imp, right? Work by default identifies the field type as text, but the kind of function you perform determines the field type. Right? Now, I want to get a substring. This is my field info. Moment. I clicked on Add Field. Workday automatically added this field info, wherein I changed the field name. I have these field types as well. I don't have an option to change the field type. I want to add a function. I'll click on this function library, which opens on the side. Right. And it shows me all the functions which are available. I'll go to text because I want to do something with text. And when I search here, either I can search directly here in the search function, but I can navigate from here as well. I want a substring. I can click on this plus icon and it will add it here. When I click on plus, if you see, the function itself gets added. But I don't know how to perform this substring. I'll click on this and it gives me an example. Also a description. A substring is a row function that returns the specified character of a string value based on the given start and optional end position, and it also gives me a small syntax. Now, as I mentioned, it is the function that you perform which determines the return field type. Right. The output of a substring function is a field of type text. Right. And it gives me how to perform a function. Now I can add it here, or I can click on this icon, which will take me to a different window. This is basically a single screen layout. Or I can click here, which takes me here. Once again, I can go in here. I want to understand. I'm not very good in it. I'll go in here. I can once again expand it. And this gives me that clue. Now I want to refer another column in my data set. Right? I want to take that employee ID. Whenever you want to refer another column, you would add these square brackets. All I've done is I have added square bracket, the starting square bracket. Workday automatically adds the ending square bracket. And then the moment I add a square bracket, it shows me all fields in my data set. The reason it's showing this is because this is a lengthy field. This is a lengthy field, right? This is numeric, which is fine. It shows me, this is a text field. It shows me this is a numeric field. But it's not showing me the names of these fields because it has that. Do you want to this? Because the field name is big. But if I select this, if you see, but I don't want to add this, right? I would once again add this and I want to select employee ID. Now what is the function? Says followed by comma. I want to start at. Right? Because I want to exclude my first character, which is E. Right? I want to start with character 1 and I think it should be end. I don't think we can do it dynamically. I'll just say, let me apply this. When I apply it, it will run and it will give me the output. Right? 3. If I change it to, let's see what happens. I'll click on and it will get me 2, which means I have to get. Alright, this calculated field that I have created. I'll go ahead and save my derived dataset. Right? The output of this manage field stage is the output of this entire primary pipeline. Now I can join this primary pipeline which is employee survey. D. Now I can join this dataset with my employee details dataset, right? And that join would happen on the output of each dataset, right? What is the output of this employee survey details? It is the output of the final stage of the primary pipeline of this dataset. Now I want to add a new stage, right? See, at this point in time, I could have done the join on any dataset, which means, right? But I want my employee details to be on the left-hand side. It acts as the primary value. That's why I'm doing a join on the importer survey details. I'm clicking on Add Stage. Now here, in Union, it basically adds the number of cells. Right? They were survey results for 2020 and 2021. I want to add it to the survey results of 2022. I did the union. Right? What does it do? It takes all the columns from one pipeline. There are 100 columns in pipeline 1. There are 150 columns in pipeline 2. My union will give me 250 columns. Right? It takes 100 columns from here, 150 columns from here. That's what this no column. Rows or columns. There are 100 rows in my primary pipeline in one object. 150 another one. It gives me 250 row. The number of columns could be the same or less. That's what we saw. The number of rows would be added. Add, right. The number of columns could be 100 or less. Right. The reason it is 100 is because the smaller has 100. Correct with join. It works the other way. With join, what I'm trying to do is my first object, let's say as 50. My second object has 20 columns. Now I'm trying to identify a primary key in both these objects based on which I want to join the columns here. Ultimate would give me anywhere from 50 to 70 columns. Right. I'm adding a new stage. I'm adding. We can add the join either on the employee data. We can do that. It doesn't matter. But because we need per row survey, you are doing the pipeline in the survey. I'm doing the pipeline in employee details. In the employee details, right. I'm doing a join on the employee details. I'm coming here. I'm doing a join. It is asking me to select another pipeline. I'm selecting another pipeline. And the pipeline I'm selecting is DDS import of survey details. Basically this pipeline, right. I'm selecting this. I'll say. Now it is asking me to identify that primary key based on which this join would happen. Here I want employee ID. And I want. It shows me because this is a text field. Right. It shows me. Oh, there are just two text fields. And I'm selecting the second one. If I select the first one, nothing happens. Right. There wouldn't be any output. I'm selecting the second one. Do you understand the different types of joins? Left outer join, inner join. But it's been a while. I'll be honest with you. Because we don't use joins in Workday. In SAP we have. What do you say? There is just inner join. And there is only one other join we don't use. The remaining two, Even I'm not very good in Excel, but what is left outer join? Now, this is how the left outer join works. Let's say I have object 1, or in this case, let's say table 1 which has an employee ID. And then we have table 2 which has employee ID. And let's say the equipment these employees hold. My employee ID day 1, his name is Logan. Her name is Steve. Now employee ID 1, she holds a laptop. Employee ID day 1, she just for the sake of it also has a key. Now employee ID 3 holds a desktop. Now when I do a left outer join, what I'm saying is take the left object. Take all rows of the left object. My output table, my join table, will have these two. Because I'm doing a left outer join, it will take these two. And then only join it with those values which match in the right side. Object. Here A1 matches here. Right. It will get me equipment from here, which is laptop. A1 also matches another object. It also gets me mouse. Right. And it gets me object from here. What it is doing is it is giving getting. But because A3 doesn't match, it doesn't get me object from here. What I'm saying is left outer join. Take the left object, get all data from left object, only get data from right object. If there is a match with the left object, my row output would be this. If I do a right outer join, this is left outer join. If I do a right outer join again, then this is what it does. It takes the right object, right? And then it gets everything from right object. Basically, this is what I'll have in the case of right outer join. Very good. And here, because there is a match with Logan, it only gets me Logan from here. Everything else it leaves as blank. Right. It will populate Logan in the second row as well, or no? No, it won't. It is A1, right? It will populate. Wherever there is a match, it populates data. Same as this case, right? Right. Wherever there is a match, it populates data. Right. And then there is an inner join. Inner join says get only one day, only that data wherein there is a perfect match. If you look at the left outer join, if you see the left side is grayed out, it is trying to match everything with left hand side. Right. When I say right outer join, it is trying to do a match with the right side. Right. When I say inner join, it is only getting those values which is an intersection. Right. Now it will not match anything, right? It will match A1. Just it will get me employee ID. This is how it will look. It will get me A1. This is my inner join result. Only where there is a perfect match, it gets me object. Between table 1 and table 2, you have only one match with respect to employee, right? Because there is no name and there is no equipment in it. Right. Join is happening with respect to unique key. It is not happening with respect to join. What I'm saying is, if there is a match between the primary keys that I have selected, then get all the columns with respect to it. Makes sense. It's been a while. I totally forgot, right? Because A1 matches, it gets all data from here and joins it with all data from here. It doesn't get any A2 or A3, right? And with respect to full outer join, I'm saying only get data wherein there is no match. When I do a full outer join, then this is what it is going to get me. It is going to get me A2 Steve because A2 Steve doesn't have a match here. And then it will get me A3 desktop. Makes sense. In our case, I want to do a left outer join. That's the one gets defaulted. And it is asking me how do I want to do a join? Right. On the primary pipeline, I want to join employee ID with the employee ID on the secondary pipeline. Right. Then it is asking me to decide which fields to select from the primary pipeline. This is where your confusion. Wherever there is a match, I'm saying select all the fields from the primary pipeline. This is what I'm saying. Wherever there is a match in the left outer join, select employee ID as well as name from the primary pipeline. Both of those get selected. This is what I'm saying. Select all the fields from the primary pipeline. From the secondary pipeline, I don't want to select employee ID, right? Because if I select employee ID, it would be duplicate, right? Once again, I'm saying select all, and then I'm removing this employee ID as well as this employee ID, right? Because both of them are duplicate, right? That ensures that I don't have these duplicate values. I have employee ID name and equipment, the only unique values that I'm or just columns that I'm looking for. I can do a preview. Right? Now if you see for 2N1578, which is exactly what we are getting right. Wherever there is a match, because here there is a match between two different rows. For A1, it is getting me two rows right. Right. This gets repeated A1 Logan. Right. And then this is exactly what is happening. Right. 25078, everything in the left table gets repeated. Till it reaches here wherein I have 2020, 21 and 22. And I'll say done. Now it has the total fields as 33. Right. 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 I thought the rows count will be more, but again it is more. But I'm just checking. Why is there no survey results for 2020? Oh, it is starting from 2fix7 Let me check. This is my manage field stage. Why does this doesn't have? I think that's fine because this is what has happened. What I've done is import of employee details. If you remember, this is my derived data set, which is basically an import of this table. If I go in here, let me show you the lineage. If I do a view lineage, Basically, I'm not imported that data. This is my table, right? No, this is my ZF training employee details. This is my, right? Where is that? This one. This is that table wherein I imported. I ran my custom report and imported employee details to this table. But when I ran that report, see what has happened is I have only ran that report, I think for the year 2020 or something. It only has 21578. And when I move to the right, to see the effective date, if you see it only has 2020 data, I should have imported it for 2021 and 2022. That was my whole idea, right? If you remember, that's why we added affected. As of 2021-22, there is no employee, 2001 and on and forth. The employee for whom these survey results are there, those employees itself don't exist. Now let me run that report. That's why this becomes confusing as the complexity increases. And the logic itself is pretty simple. I ran this report only for 2020 and that is the data we have. And when I run it, it has 2000 Monday as well. Why is that? It does have 2001 data. Import of server detail. Let me see. How many? How many? It is sending. That's fine. There is data. If you see, it has all those values. That's fine. At least for today. For year 2020, I got confused because it has those values. For year 2020, it has all the values, but still what I should have done is I should have run this report or this data, this table for year 2021 and 22 as well. Let's go ahead and do that now. This will also tell us what happens if we have to update new data, right? First thing I'll do is I'll edit schema and I'll add the name table to it. Done. Then I'll create a data change task, right? That's what we have to do for importing data into. But for that, first I'll go ahead and update my report because now we want to run this report for 2021, right? And we don't have any options with respect to defining. And you will append the data right? All I'm doing is in the prompt I'm saying run it for 2021. And when I run it now, if you see when now it will get me data for 2021. With respect to our data change task, I'm saying change connection. I'm saying Workday report. If you remember, the problem with the table is we cannot specify that prompt values, right? And that's why we said wherever there are prompt values, defaults will have to be specified, right? I'm selecting employee details. Now Prism employee details this table. And when I say next, I want to insert data, right? I still want the data of 2020 to be retained. I want to add data to 21. That's what I want to do. There are other options as well. As part of this data change task, I can delete data. Perfect. Right. I can truncate all existing data and then insert new data. I can only update data, which means wherever there is a match and there is a change, it will go ahead and do that. Or I can update data wherever there is a match and insert everything new. Right. In our case, I just want to insert new data. It is asking me for a mapping. Yes, this is exactly how my mapping would look. In this employee ID in my table, this field of the report will fill in. It does a mapping and you have the option to go ahead and make changes if there are any. This has 27 fields because Workday has automatically added these fields. I see that the map is perfect. Each field of the report maps to the correct field in my table and it shows me this example. This is how it would look. And I'll say next and I'll say save and run now. When I do that, it has submitted my data change task. My data change activity is running. It is retrieving data. When I last retrieved data on employee details, it retrieved 483 rows. Right. That's what we see in the table right now. This time it should import 470 new rows. In the meantime, I'll go ahead and again update this report. And I'll add 2022 that we also run it for 2022. I shouldn't have done that. Let me first let this to complete. It has imported 4 rows for 2021. Now I'm running it for 2022, which means it should get me 464 rows for 2022. Let's quickly have a look at our table. Right, which should be somewhere around 9070. Now there are 93. Right. If I sort this in an ascending order, there are wherever there is an employee who existed in a given year. There are multiple rows for him, and Tharuman probably got terminated. Right. I want to create a new data change task now. I'll come here. I'll create a new data change task. I'll change the connection because default it is asking me to load data through a file. I'll change the connection. I'm still saying get data from this report. Again, I want the data to be inserted. This is a perfect match. I'll say next. Upsert or insert. Upsert or insert. I'm selecting insert because that's what I want to do. Right. I want this to be a trending output. Right. Right. I'll say save and run. This time some 464 new records should get added. 464 new records are successful. Which means if I go to my table now, there should be some 1413 record. I sort it in ascending order. Wherever there is value, let's see for some of the latest employees. 202, for example, Steve Morgan and Logan McNeil, because they are still active. Right? I have data for them for all 3 years. Right? I would have data for 2020, 21, 22. This is our import stage. Let's go to data catalog. Refresh it. And then go to import of employee details once again. This time. Now, if you see wherever there is, let's see what is happening. 21. Now, if I search for Logan McNeil as an example, let's search for. I think we'll have to do it this way. This is Logan McNeil. If I see row number 69, 70, 71 and move to the right. If you see 69 is for 21. What effective date is this? Let's start from our first import stage. That's what I was about to ask. Do we need to update the derived datasets? It shouldn't be. That's what I'm checking. If I search for Logan McNeil once again, if you see it has. If you see Logan McNeil, it has now data imported automatically for 2020, 10, 2021, 10, 2022. And this is, I'm clicking on import stage right now. Right? Let's click on manage field stage. Once again, I have all 400 records, which is what we saw here as well. Join stage. This is where I think we may have to update it. Let's search for Logan once again. Where is Logan? Where is Logan? Now it's updated automatically. Now instead of 3, what it is doing for 2101 in year 2020, it is joining it with all the 20T relevant values. There is actually one more thing we should have done. When we did a join, I should have done a join on 2 parameters. If you see what is happening is, let me for Logan. Now Logan in the primary key has 2 3-year records, right? It has 22T. And then we have Logan 10, 22 and 10. And then we have Logan 2, 2, 2, 10. Right. And my secondary one has 3 records. Once again for 2020, her survey is 9. 2021, her survey is, let's say, 8. Her survey is 10. Right. Now currently Workday has done is, if you see, for Logan there are some 9 different cells, right? What the Workday has done is it has with all 3. This with all 3. It has clubbed this with all 3. This is Logan's record for 2020. I want this to be joined with this. This is what I want. I want this to be joined with this. Ultimately, after the join, I still only want 3 rows for Logan McNeil. Right? How do you think I should have changed my join? Add one more time. I'm ready? I know not. I should have done. Currently, I'm doing a join only on employee ID. Right? I should have done one more match. But the problem here is, once again, if you see, what I've done is not. Here I have 2020 and 2020. Right? Once again, I could have selected the same format, but then we'll go ahead and add one more calculation and bring both these formats to match. Please do like, share and subscribe to our channel.